So this time I'm working on a figure called Hotarugusa, I believe. I'm not familiar with the character, but I found this on CG Trader under, I think that might be Queenie Workshop. And then this is what the back is supposed to look like, at least according to the images that we've been given. So this is going to be a little different for me. It's not a figure that I know or a character that I know. I think it'll be a lot of fun. There's some metals in here, but I think there's also going to be a lot of masking and brush painting. So I will tell you that one thing I did notice is there's a lot of real fine detail in here. These little pieces of lace or whatever on the edges, which look really nice, but if you print them at the normal size, they can be a little bit fragile. So this is what the figure prints out at, just the standard size that it printed out at, without any adjustments. I will say the nice thing about this kit is, compared to some of the ones that have more of like a square peg type registration, here, let me turn this light on, see if that'll help any. These fit really nicely together, and then this is just like a cone, but I don't know if you can see this, but on the end it's not quite a circle, and that just fits really nicely into the leg socket there, and the head fits in very nicely there. So this figure goes together pretty well. However, the one thing I did notice was this lace, when I printed this, it was practically just falling off. I had to be extremely careful and immediately put it under the sun in order to get this to survive at all. And then on the top here, you can see that all of this lace just disintegrated, and that's just, you know, that's no fault of the designer. That's just the way that resolution on 3D printing with resin, at least on my machine, works. But a really nice figure. If you're someone who is painting 28mm figures, this is going to be great for you. This is much bigger than 28mm figure. That's something like a 28mm figure. Or I do have one here that's kind of falling apart, but I need to get this guy glued back on his base. But so this is a typical Warhammer type figure. So yeah, there's a lot of really tiny detail on that that's a lot harder to paint than this would be, but this is a lot smaller than what I'm used to working with and what I like to work with. And I'm a person of a certain age, so my eyes are not what they used to be, my hands are, my dexterity is not what it used to be. So yeah, I like things a little bit bigger, makes it a little easier for me, and I just like the look of things. So another thing that's going to be a little different for this is it involves a base, which I don't do a lot of actual bases that are supposed to be something. So this is the base for the figure when it's upscaled 200%, or basically double the normal size that it prints out at least, again, from my printer. But yeah, I ended up I don't know if you can see, this is 3D printed on just your typical PLA type of printer, because I did not want to use that much resin for something that I'm probably going to throw a lot of foliage and stuff on. So this is all water, and then there's these rocks, and on here you can see they've painted the base here with kind of a wood base. I think I'm going to leave this as rock, this is all one big thing. I think it'll be fun to do the water and then maybe put some UV resin over it to give it kind of that glossy, translucent look. I do have some more resin ordered to do this in transparent, but if that doesn't work out, I do have a plan, a strategy for how to work with that. But yeah, this is the base. As you can see, I've already been working on this a little bit. I've been working on getting a few things printed out. I'm trying to get my 3D printing kind of done while the weather's good, so that I have plenty of things to work on during the winter when it's not as easy to take stuff out and leave it outside to cure. So I do have a UV resin curing booth that I made with a UV light. I just find the sun works a lot better and it's easier to work with. So, and another thing I'm going to do, so this is the little lamp thing right there. So, and I also tried something different. I'm using just the rattle can fake rock stuff. See how that looks? It's really, really cracky. I'm still waiting for this to dry a little bit to see how I feel about it. I might put a little bit of Tamiya gray panel liner on it to see if I can fill in some of these cracks. But my plan is, so what this tape is covering is, I do have a little LED light here, and basically what I did is I stole it from one of these little LED tea lights, and what I liked about that was this switch is really stiff, but it'll kind of flicker, and so I thought it'd be kind of nice to shove this up into this and have this light up, so give it kind of a flickering look. So that's the plan for the base. I'll put the tape back on because I've got a lot of painting left to do and I don't want to mess up that LED, although I could. My soldering skills are not great, but I could redo it. I just prefer not to if I can avoid that. So yeah, that's something that's a little different for me, is doing a base that is supposed to be representative of something. And then here are the various pieces. So they've got the first couple layers of rattle can primer on them, and there are quite a few places on here where I get to go in and fix a few imperfections. Most of these are not too bad, and they're not going to be like extremely visible, but like that one I can see from the front, and that one and that one, and some of these in here. So I'm not worried as much about this like layer lining there going on, but you can see at this scale, this lace came out a lot more sturdy. I'm still very careful with it, but it feels like it's going to work a lot better. And then this is that splash piece. So right now I'm painting it up, and I can see now I've got a lot of things that'll probably still be visible that I'll want to sand down before I get another coat of primer on this. And looks like it's leaking a little bit of UV resin, which is not ideal. So just hit that with UV light a little bit. But anyway, so the plan for this is to paint it all silver and then layer on some kind of like candy coatings like you would on a vehicle or something that's got like the classical candy, like candy blue color. So that's kind of my plan for this. Now, as I mentioned, the kit goes together pretty nicely, but the one thing that I would change, given the opportunity, is I wish that the hair was separate from the face. And I can see right now I've got some really teeny little support pieces here that I didn't notice in my first go through. So I'll just take care of those while I'm seeing them. And of course that is the point of doing, or at least half the point of doing your primer coat, is to let you see the stuff that you can't. I mean, I probably spent, I don't know, a couple hours looking at these things. I tend to print in gray primer to make it a little easier to see the imperfections that come out, but as you can see, there's still a little bit of chicken skinning here from the supports. I printed it kind of like in a position like this, so that like the base was down here and that was up. The other thing I did is I took a grinder and I ground out some eyes on there just to make it a little easier to do the eye painting, which as you may know, I am not entirely great at. So, but I think that's going to be a challenging piece just because of all that's going on with it. But I think it'll be fun. So this is a fairly huge piece, I would say. This leaf she's holding. And so my plan for that is to, I think I will do kind of the orangish look, but I'm going to leave the center kind of a green and brown, like it's got actual stems. There's a little bit of that kind of like leaf color going on here in the example, which I think this is done in whatever 3D animation program or 3D design program this was created in. So I could be wrong, but this has a digital look to it. But there is a little bit of variance, but it's still basically you know, a little bit from the brown to the yellow to the orange. I want to put a little bit of green in there and make this a little bit more natural. I think the stem would be a little bit more woody, and I think this would probably have a little bit more green in it. Anyway, that's the way I'm going to do it. That's, you know, that's one of the things that's nice about doing a character that you don't know and have no expectations about, is that you can do what you want. So yeah, that's what I plan to do there. And then you can see, like, on the underside, there's a lot of stuff I need to clean up on this. Oh, sorry, you can't see that. So again, on these, I don't know, I guess you'd call them bloomers. I guess if you were Burnett Banner, you might call this a pair of combinations, but I don't know, it feels a little more puffy than that. But yeah, you can see the lace on this survived really well. And it is relatively sturdy. It looks like there's a couple places that I may want to drill out the primer if I'm going to worry about it. I might put it under the dress and see if it'll show up at all, but there's a little bit of chicken skinning going on here, but I think that's going to be hidden under the skirt back here. So I'm not terribly worried about that. And another thing that's a little different is not a whole lot of flesh on this one. Just on the arms, the face, and on the legs. So I don't know, in some ways that's nice because the last figure I did, well, the last couple of figures I've done, almost all flesh. And the nice thing about that is that you get done really quickly and it looks really nice, but the other hand is it's kind of just all flesh. So again, this is not from that. This is from the what was the name, Tinkerbell figure that I did. But I had a couple of failed prints and I've saved them for practice purposes. And so what I did with this is I tried a different paint formula, because some of the paint that I like to use, a little hard to get in America. Right now it's not available on Amazon. It's the Gaia Colors. I can't remember which number it is, but that's the one I really like for the flesh tones. But I'm trying Tamiya with clear orange mixed with pink, and that gives it kind of a translucent mixed with a opaque color, and I kind of like the way it works. It almost makes it really easy to do a lot of shading, and so I start out with a white base and then I just layer on the colors, and I hit the areas that I want to be darker or more orange a little bit more. It's a little bit more on the orangey pink side than I normally used to, but I'm liking it. And people have different tastes with that, which is totally fine. What I'm finding is when I look at my PVC vinyl figures and when I look at the figures I painted, a lot of times they look fine unless you set them next to something else, and then you notice some are really, really white and pale and some are like really pink or orangey, but when they're by themselves you don't notice that as much. So I think this is going to be a fun figure, a lot of fun little pieces. I'll try to get these all out here. So these are the legs. I'll put this in front because they'll show up a little better maybe against that. But yeah, these are the legs, and they've got like the Gaeta sandals on. So I think those will be relatively easy to paint. I think it'll be, other than this flesh tone and some of this white down here, I think that's going to be a lot of brush painting. But I think the white on this, I might shift a little bit to the pink like here. I think that might be a little nice. I don't know. I come from a painting philosophy where you want to conserve your whites and your blacks, and I very seldom use either straight in anything that I do because of that. Nothing wrong if that's what you want to do, but that's what I do. So I tend to use a lot of, for black, like a lot of times I don't really even use straight black unless it's like a gloss black or something. A lot of times what I'll do is I will use, I believe it's, to me, a navy blue, which is almost black, but it's just ever so slightly on the blue side. So this is the tassel thingy that is on the front here, kind of like a belt. This is the ginormous bow thingy on the back of her. I don't know if that's a yakata or what, but this looks like it's part of her obi on here. And I can see I need to fill in some of these divots where I had the holes for the resin to drain, so I need to take care of that. These are the sleeves, which are really nicely done, and again, these just socket into the sides of the body really nicely. A little bit that I got to clean up there, a little bit there. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this on here. It's just the same color as this, so I guess I'll do that. But if you're wondering, this arm is actually on that big leaf thing, so that holds that in there. And again, as I tend to do with these kind of figures, I'm probably not going to bother with doing magnets. I will probably just pin this and use a lot of super glue for the small things and 5-minute JB weld, plastic weld for the larger things. I think that'll work pretty well. So that's my plan. I don't know how long this is going to take to do. So that's what I'll be working on for this project. So we'll see how this one goes.